Aloy is honestly really cool. Because, you know, like, get it? Because she's like from the Ice, like Horizon.0, like, ha ha ha. And this is the part where I put the disclaimer that this channel is focused on fear crafting and meta crafting, aka doing endgame in Genshin Impact and doing stuff like Spiral Abyss. So if you're not interested, you're not interested. Also, this is also the part where I tell you to subscribe, so subscribe now, aha! Aloy is a sub DPS that is really good and not really good at the same time. The reason why she's not good is because she only fit into one type of team, and that is the team you see on the screen, the Ganyu Morgana team, except you replace Diona with Aloy, or the equivalent of the Ayaka version, where you also replace Diona with Aloy. Replacing Diona with Aloy simply gives you more damage, but you trade it off by giving up the shielding and the healing. However, Aloy is a free character. That means that Aloy is basically just a free option for you to have, assuming you can draft this team. And therefore, because she is free and she gives you option for free, she is good in that respective. Starting off with Aloy normal attack, Aloy have a really cool normal attack animation that you're never ever gonna use. The reason is because in order to infuse it, you need to use these bomb, and you have to have an enemy step on 4 of these bomb in order to infuse it. In an actual combat, that is just not gonna be feasible. Now you can use a caster to suck up these bomb, but that still does not work. The reason is because there's actually a internal cooldown on the bomb trigger for the stacks. So here you can see that Aloy can only gain up to 1 stack every 0.1 seconds, and if you use a caster to pull all the bomb like this, they'll all pop within 0.1 second, and therefore you don't get any more stack than 1 stack. Similarly, again, going back to the stack mechanics, you only get the crowd infusion on your normal attack when you have 4 stacks. So you need enemy to somehow walk over 4 bomb, and it's just not realistic in actual combat, and because of that, she is not suitable for main DPS. Do not use her as an on-field carry. While we're here, let's talk about her talent. Her first talent basically gives you 16% attack on her and 8% attack to your party member when you get a stack from your elemental skill, which is again when the enemy step on those bomb. This can trigger off field, so it's rather easy to trigger since you can just switch off her. Eventually, one of the enemy is gonna step on the bomb, and therefore you just get attack boost to your entire party. Her second talent is completely useless because again, you're never gonna hit that rushing ice state, which is the getting 4 stack state, and therefore this skill is completely useless and it's not gonna trigger in an actual combat. Aloy elemental skill generates 5 energy every single time and is very fast to come out. This makes her an incredible cryo battery for your other cryo DPS like Ayaka, Ganyu, or even Eula. With a sacrificial bow, you can see Aloy can cast very quickly. For comparison, here is Diona with a sacrificial bow, and here is them side by side on a 50% speed slowdown. You can see that Aloy come out a little bit faster than Diona would. In case you didn't know, each hit of Diona have a 80% chance to generate 1 crowd battle code. That means you could have 3, you could have 5. On average, you get 4 energy for every single Diona elemental skill, so with a sacrificial bow and you cast it twice, you can expect to get 8 in total. However, Aloy will get 5 every single time. That means with a sacrificial bow on Aloy, you can cast it twice again, and you'll get 10 crowd battle code or 10 crowd energy in total, and therefore it's a little bit better than Diona. Of course, Aloy do have a longer cooldown than Diona. Aloy have a 20-second cooldown on her elemental skill, while Diona only have a 15. However, in a full team rotation where you do 20 seconds of rotation, the 20-second cooldown is not that big of a deal compared to the 15, and therefore is not a big problem. Aloy Elemental Burst is just a simple nuke skill that is also relatively fast when it's come out. Of course, it is not as fast as Chongyun since Chongyun don't have a cutscene. Now, Aloy Elemental Burst can do a really good amount of damage. At level 6, currently is capable of doing 503% damage. For comparison purpose, Child at level 6 on his range form, which is used more common, is also only at 530. So they are similar in terms of scaling, but the key takeaway here is that Chongyun have a better scaling. Now I have Chongyun Elemental Burst at level 7, but at level 6 this would be 200%, but it casts 3 times, so the total damage on the Chongyun Elemental Burst is actually 600. So because of that, Chongyun Elemental Burst just simply do more damage than Aloy Elemental Burst. On top of that, Chongyun also have Constellation, and since Chongyun is a 4-star, his Constellation is not too hard to get. While Aloy do not have any kind of Constellation. I mean, with each Constellation you get, noticeably the Constellation that upgrade your elemental burst, or like Constellation that C6, which also increase your elemental burst damage, you will dramatically outscale the elemental burst damage between Chongyun and Aloy, and therefore Chongyun is just a better nuker than Aloy is. Occasionally, people like to pair Chongyun together with Medic to do a big melt elemental burst, which lets you melt all of its elemental burst. You could do the same with Aloy, but again, just as I mentioned, Chongyun simply just outscale Aloy because of way better scaling and Constellation, so Chongyun is a much better character for this role, unless you decide to bring both of them together, but that's kinda iffy. So what team can Aloy go into then? The answer is, of course, the Morgana team. The Morgana team typically look like this, where you either use Ayaka or Ganyu, and then use either Venti or Kazuha, and then use Mona and Diona. Of course, when Ayaka came out, people have this idea of pairing both Ayaka and Ganyu together, completely ditching healer and just relying on raw damage. And of course, this became one of the highest damaging team in the game, because ditching a healer for more damage just lets you more damage, right? Very simple math. Now, in a freeze team like this, healer is not necessary because you just freeze everything, and if you play well and you're good at dodging, then you don't need a healer. But of course, this is a luxury team with 4 different 5-star characters, which is very hard to draft for many players. Now, what if one of these characters is replaceable and come for free, aka Aloy? So this is going to be the Aloy version. It's not going to be as strong as Ayaka because obviously Ayaka just do a lot more damage with her crazy elemental burst, but it's a very good budget replacement. Again, because Aloy is a free character. Equivalently, you can also draft the Ayaka version, either replacing Venti of Kazuha and then just replacing the Ganyu with Ayaka. Once again, this team is going to be very solid. Of course, again, you don't have a healer, but it just play well. As I mentioned before, Aloy have better energy generation than Diona, making this team very solid because Aloy can easily funnel your Ayaka elemental burst or equivalently your Ganyu. Here you can see that after casting Ayaka ult, my elemental burst is already back up already because of the energy from Aloy. Here you can see on the screen I'm playing the Ganyu Aloy version. Aloy feel a lot better than playing Ayaka here, simply because Aloy skill come out way faster and Aloy is range where Ayaka is melee, so it's harder to position. Of course, Ayaka will do more damage as mentioned before because Ayaka is a elemental burst focused character, but Aloy is a very good substitution. Doing the same rotation as before when you had Diona is fine since you're just replacing Diona with Aloy here. Simply cast Aloy elemental burst and skill where you would normally cast Diona elemental skill and burst, you're good to go. But you might have a slight issue building Aloy in comparison to Diona. On Aloy, your elemental skill will only hit once, at best 2 times while you're on the field, because it only have 1 instant of the free spawn damage, and if you're lucky, one of the mob will stand on a bomblet before you leave the field. This makes triggering Sacrificial Bow very hard when you do not have a high refinement Sacrificial Bow like I do. So if you don't have a high refinement Sacrificial Bow, you want to use a Euphonious or Phonious Bow instead. What you can do is simply auto attack 1 or 2 times before you switch, like this, and then you switch. This will get you about 3 or even 4 hit, and you have a good amount of chances to proc the Phonious Bow passive. Since you're going to be building crit rate on Aloy anyway, it's not too hard to proc, unless you're very unlucky or have really low refinement Phonious Bow. Artifact, as always, 4 Blizzard Destroyer if you can afford it since you're running her in a freeze team in Morgana. However, 2 Noblest and 2 Blizzard Destroyer is a very good substitution if you cannot afford 4 Blizzard Destroyer or it's just simply because you have better substat. Overall, looking for the one with the better substat is probably correct, but Blizzard Destroyer is the go-to. In terms of talent, leveling her elemental burst first and then leveling her elemental skill is correct. And as always, very straightforward to build your artifact. Crit rate or crit damage on your circlet, crowd damage on your goblet, attack on your sands. You don't need to explicitly build ER because again, Aloy have really good energy generation and she's only a 40 energy cost. And because you're going to be running either the Phonious Bow or the Sacrificial Bow, you already have some amount of energy recharge, so it's enough. Don't need to look for energy recharge at all. In terms of team comp, just take your Morgana and then either replace Ayaka or Ganyu with your Aloy. This is really the only type of team where she is suitable and meta in, because in every type of team, other crowd DPS would just be a better option than Aloy. Again, Chongyun is a better nuker, and Rosaria and Kair are better in terms of everything else. Previously, I also talked about how she generated a lot of energy, so you could consider her for Eula, but honestly, please do not do this. Fiona is a much better option because you really want the shield on Eula. Unless you're very confident at your skill, you're very confident at your output and everything, then you could replace Aloy with Fiona because she straight up does do more damage than Fiona. But please do not do this if you don't have to. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Aloy only fit into one single team, and that's why she's not so good. But she's free, and that's really important. Not only she is free, but she fit into this really strong team really well, and could be a potential upgrade for a lot of people who are looking to ditch their Diona and put in something more damaging. Because she is free, and she worked well, she worked really fluent. Honestly, she feel a lot better than putting both Ganyu and Ayaka, because that team is really clunky. She ended up being good, again, purely because she is a free option available. I know this free-to-play player who have Ayaka, Mona, and Kazuha, and for them they can just put this free character called Aloy into their party and they will get a really strong meta team. Of course, again, this team unfortunately don't have a healer, so you just have to play well or dodge well. But maybe if only we had a Hydro healer, then it could work really well. Maybe this team will even become super meta once we get some sort of like really good Hydro healer. Who knows? Anyway, with that being said, as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I have a lot of fun playing with Aloy. She honestly was kind of surprising. The fact that she belonged to any team at all was honestly a surprising result to me. And with that being said, I hope to see you guys all next time, so bye bye.